Admiral Jack Morrison sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where New Haven should have been. The colony world had been home to 3 million people just 2 days ago. Now there was nothing but floating rocks and glowing debris where a planet used to spin. "Sir, we're picking up the last transmission from New Haven again," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from the communication station. His voice shook slightly. "Should I play it?" Morrison nodded. He had heard the message 12 times already, but something new might reveal itself. The speakers crackled to life with static and terror. "This is Governor Walsh on New Haven. Unknown ships have appeared in our system. They're massive, bigger than anything we've ever seen. They're not responding to our calls. Oh God, they're charging weapons. The energy readings are off the charts. They're going to... The transmission cut to screaming, then silence. Captain Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge, her face pale. She had been leading the investigation team on the surface of what remained of New Haven. "Admiral, you need to see what we found down there." Morrison followed Grant to the shuttle bay where her team had set up a temporary lab. Dr. Pete Collins stood over a metal table covered with strange pieces of technology. The fragments glowed with a soft blue light that hurt to look at directly. "This isn't like anything in our databases," Collins said, holding up a curved piece of alien metal. "The energy signatures are completely unknown. Whatever did this had the power to crack a planet's core from orbit." "How is that possible?" Morrison asked. Collins wiped sweat from his forehead. "The blast patterns suggest they used some kind of exotic matter weapon. It destabilized the planet's gravity field, then tore it apart from the inside. The whole process took less than 6 hours. Grant stepped forward. "Admiral, we found something else. There were no survivors, but the attack pattern was systematic. They didn't just destroy New Haven randomly. They carved it up piece by piece, like they were harvesting something." Morrison felt cold despite the warm air in the shuttle bay. "Harvesting what?" "We think they were collecting the planet's core material," Collins said. "These energy readings suggest they have ships large enough to process entire worlds. We're not dealing with a normal military force. These are planet killers." The bridge alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Morrison ran back to his command center where Lieutenant Carter was frantically working at his station. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. President Helen Burke wants to speak with you immediately." The main screen flickered to life, showing the president's worried face. Behind her, Morrison could see the emergency session of the Terran Defense Council in progress. "Admiral Morrison, what's your status?" Burke asked. "Madam President, New Haven is gone. Completely destroyed. We're dealing with an unknown alien force with weapons that can eliminate entire worlds." The room behind Burke fell silent. Defense Secretary Ron Adams leaned into view. "Admiral, are you certain this wasn't some kind of natural disaster? A solar flare or asteroid impact?" "Negative, sir. This was a deliberate attack. The aliens used technology we don't understand to tear the planet apart from orbit. They left no survivors and no trace of their identity." President Burke's face grew grim. "How many ships are we talking about?" Grant answered from beside Morrison. "Based on the debris patterns, we estimate at least 5 massive vessels. Each one would have to be the size of a small city to generate this much destruction." Dr. Collins added, "Madam President, I've been studying the alien technology fragments. These beings have been doing this for a long time. The metal alloys are worn smooth like tools used over centuries. This wasn't their first planet. The implications hit everyone at once. Somewhere in space, alien ships the size of cities were moving from world to world, destroying everything in their path." "Admiral Morrison, I'm ordering you to return to Earth immediately," Burke said. "We need to convene an emergency defense council. If these aliens are hunting human colonies, we need to prepare for war." After the transmission ended, Morrison stood quietly on his bridge. Around him, his crew worked with nervous energy, everyone understanding that their world had just changed forever. Grant approached him. "Sir, what are our orders?" Morrison looked out at the debris field that had once been New Haven. Somewhere, among those floating rocks, were the remains of 3 million people who had gone to sleep thinking they were safe. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed," he said, "and send messages to all colony worlds. Tell them to increase their defense readiness and prepare for evacuation if necessary. Sir, should we tell them about the planet killers? Morrison considered. This. If he told the colonies the truth, panic would spread across human space. But if he didn't warn them, more worlds might die while humanity slept in ignorance. Tell them we've encountered a new alien threat with advanced weapons. Don't mention the planet-killing capability yet. We need to understand what we're facing before we cause mass panic. As the ship turned toward Earth, Morrison remained on the bridge, watching New Haven's remains fade into the distance. Humanity had always known they weren't alone in the universe, but they had never imagined they might face enemies who could erase entire worlds. The planet killers were out there somewhere, moving through space like cosmic sharks, and humanity had just become their prey. 3 months had passed since New Haven died. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the battleship Defender, watching green fields spin peacefully below. The agricultural world looked beautiful from space, with its golden wheat fields and blue rivers creating patterns across the surface. Captain, we're receiving the daily report from Governor Murphy, said Communications Officer Danny Walsh. The harvest is going well. 2 million colonists are preparing for the winter season. Grant nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the long-range sensors. For weeks, her fleet had been tracking energy signatures moving toward green fields. The same signatures they had found in the wreckage of New Haven. Contact Admiral Morrison, she ordered. Tell him we're maintaining position and ready for anything. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks looked up from his sensor station. Captain, I'm detecting something at the edge of the system. Multiple large contacts jumping out of hyperspace. Grant's blood went cold. How many? 5 contacts confirmed. They're huge, Captain. Each one is at least 50 kilometers long. The planet killers had found another target. Sound general quarters. All ships to battle stations. Send an immediate evacuation order to Greenfields. Alarms blared throughout the fleet as 27 human warships prepared for battle. Grant had the largest force Earth could spare, but she knew it might not be enough. The alien ships that destroyed New Haven were unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Commander Steve Parker's voice crackled over the communications system from his fighter squadron. Captain Grant, Falcon Squadron is ready for launch. What are our orders? Hold position until we see what we're dealing with, Steve. These aliens have weapons that can crack planets. I won't send you in blind. On the main screen, the alien ships became visible as they moved deeper into the system. Grant had studied the scattered reports from New Haven, but seeing the planet killers in person was terrifying. They were enormous, black vessels shaped like massive arrowheads covered in strange blue lights that pulsed like heartbeats. Dr. Pete Collins spoke from his monitoring station. Captain, I'm reading incredible energy levels from those ships. Their power cores are generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. Can we evacuate Greenfields in time? Collins shook his head. At their current speed, the aliens will reach the planet in 6 hours. It would take at least 12 hours to evacuate 2 million people. Grant felt sick. She was about to watch another world die, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. All ships, this is Captain Grant. We're going to engage the enemy before they reach green fields. I know the odds are against us, but we can't let another colony fall without a fight. The human fleet moved forward to intercept the planet killers. As they got closer, the true size of the alien ships became clear. Each one was like a floating city, bristling with weapons that glowed with the same blue energy they had found at New Haven. Captain, they're charging weapons, Brooks reported. Energy levels are off the charts. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Launch all fighters. The space around green fields exploded into chaos. The planet killers fired beams of blue energy that cut through space like swords. When the beams hit the human ships, they didn't just destroy them. They completely erased them, leaving nothing behind. Grant watched in horror as 3 of her ships vanished in seconds. Return fire. All weapons. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Missiles, plasma cannons, and railguns poured fire into the alien ships. Most of the weapons simply bounced off the planet killer's hull, but a few managed to cause damage. Commander, Parker led his fighters in desperate attacks against the massive ships. His small craft darted between the alien weapons, firing at anything that looked important. "Captain, I'm seeing some effect from our attacks," Parker reported over the radio. "The ship on the left has damage to its hull plating. We might be able to hurt these things." But the victory was brief. The planet killers adapted quickly to human tactics. Their defensive fire became more accurate, and fighter after fighter exploded in balls of flame. "Steve, get your people out of there," Grant ordered. "Fall back to the fleet." As the remaining fighters retreated, the planet killers turned their attention to green fields. The lead ship moved into position above the planet and began charging. Its main weapon. Grant knew what came next. She had seen the recordings from New Haven. "All ships full speed toward the planet. We have to stop them." But they were too far away. The planet killer fired its weapon into Greenfield's surface. The beam penetrated deep into the planet's crust, and within minutes, the world began to crack apart. 2 million people died as their planet broke into pieces. "Captain, we're taking heavy damage," reported Lieutenant Brooks. "Hull breaches on decks 5 through 7. Grant looked around her bridge. Half her crew was dead or wounded, and her ship was falling apart. The human fleet had been cut to pieces by the planet killers. "All remaining ships retreat to the edge of the system. We can't help Greenfields now." As her battered fleet limped away from the battle, Grant watched Greenfields die. The beautiful agricultural world became a field of glowing debris, just like New Haven. But something important had happened during the fight. Dr. Collins had monitored the entire battle and recorded everything. "Captain, I detected patterns in their energy signatures," Collins reported. "The planet killers need time to charge their main weapons, and their route through space follows predictable paths." Grant turned to him. "What are you saying?" "I think we can predict where they'll strike next, and if we know where they're going, we might be able to set a trap." For the first time in months, Grant felt a spark of hope. Humanity had lost 2 worlds and thousands of lives, but they had learned something valuable. The planet killers could be hurt, and they followed patterns. "Send a message to Admiral Morrison," Grant ordered. "Tell him we have intelligence on the enemy, and we have a plan." Iron Ridge was a small mining world on the edge of human space. The planet had only 50,000 people, mostly miners and their families who worked the deep metal deposits. Colonel Amy Stone stood in the empty streets of the main colony, watching the last transport ships disappear into the sky. "That's the final group, Colonel," reported Sergeant Mike Torres. "All civilians have been evacuated to the hidden base on the far side of the moon." Stone nodded, but her eyes stayed on the empty buildings around her. The plan was dangerous and might not work, but it was humanity's best chance to strike back at the planet killers. "Are the automated systems running?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. The computers are broadcasting normal radio traffic and keeping the lights on. From space, Iron Ridge will look like a normal colony with 50,000 people." Dr. Pete Collins worked frantically in his laboratory, 3 levels below the surface. Engineer Carl Hughes helped him assemble the new weapons they had designed, based on captured alien technology. "How are the core breakers coming along?" Stone asked as she entered the lab. Collins looked up from his work, sweat covering his face. "We've built 12 of them. Each missile is designed to penetrate the planet killer's hull and explode inside their power core." "Will they work?" Hughes wiped his hands on a dirty cloth. "Honestly, Colonel, we don't know. We're using alien technology we barely understand. The core breakers might destroy the planet killers, or they might just make them angry." Stone smiled grimly. "Well, we'll find out soon enough." Admiral Morrison's fleet was hidden behind Iron Ridge's 3 moons, waiting for the trap to spring. Captain Lisa Grant commanded the lead battle group, her ship repaired and upgraded with new weapons. "Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up the planet killers," reported Lieutenant Kevin Brooks. 5 ships, same configuration as before. They're moving toward Iron Ridge exactly as predicted." Morrison studied the tactical display. His fleet had grown to 40 ships, the largest force humanity had ever assembled. But he knew the planet killers were still more powerful. "All ships, maintain radio silence. Wait for my signal." On the surface of Iron Ridge, Colonel Stone watched, the skies through her bunker's observation window. The planet killers appeared as dark shapes against the stars, growing larger as they approached. "Colonel, they're taking positions around the planet," Torres reported. "Same pattern as Greenfields in New Haven." Stone activated her communicator. "Admiral Morrison, the aliens are in position. They're preparing to fire on the colony." "Understood, Colonel. All ships, prepare to attack." The planet killers moved into their standard formation above Iron Ridge. Their weapons began to charge with the familiar blue glow that had destroyed 2 worlds. "Now," Morrison ordered. The human fleet emerged from behind the moons like a swarm of angry wasps. 40 warships opened fire at once, concentrating their attack on the nearest planet killer. Commander Steve Parker led his fighter squadrons in the first wave, carrying the precious core breaker missiles. "Falcon Squadron, target the lead ship. We need to get those missiles through their defenses." The space around Iron Ridge erupted into the largest battle in human history. The planet killers, caught by surprise, struggled to respond to attacks from multiple directions. Grant's ship fired its main guns at the closest alien vessel. "All weapons concentrate fire on their weapon systems. Don't let them charge their planet killers." The human fleet had learned from their previous battles. Instead of spreading their fire, they focused on one planet killer at a time. Their weapons hammered the alien ship's hull, creating cracks in its armor. "Captain, I'm reading damage to the target's hull," Brooks reported. "The core breakers might be able to penetrate now." Parker's fighters darted through the alien defensive, fire, carrying their precious cargo. "Falcon leader to all squadrons. We're going in. Stay close and watch each other's backs." The first core breaker missile hit the planet killer's damaged hull and disappeared inside. Seconds later, the massive alien ship exploded from within, its exotic matter core chain reacting in a burst of blue light. "Direct hit," Parker shouted over the radio. "One planet killer down." But the victory came at a cost. The explosion damaged several human ships, and the remaining planet killers began to adapt to human tactics. "Admiral, they're changing their formation," Grant reported. "They're focusing their fire on our larger ships." A second planet killer fell to the core breakers, but the aliens were learning fast. Their defensive fire became more accurate, and human ships began to explode one by one. Dr. Collins monitored the battle from his underground lab. "Colonel, the energy patterns are changing. The planet killers are adapting their shields to block our weapons." Stone felt cold fear in her stomach. "How long before they break through?" "At this rate, maybe 20 minutes. After that, our weapons won't hurt them." The battle raged above Iron Ridge as both sides fought desperately. The human fleet had destroyed 2 planet killers, but they were taking heavy casualties. Half of Morrison's ships were damaged or destroyed. Grant's ship shuddered under alien fire. "Hull breach on Deck 12. We're losing power to the main engines." "Keep fighting," Morrison ordered over the communication system. "We can't let them adapt completely." Parker led another attack run with the remaining core breakers. His squadron had been cut in half, but the surviving pilots pressed their attack. "This is our last chance," he told his pilots. "Make every shot count." The final core breaker missile struck the third planet killer just as its defenses fully adapted. The explosion was smaller this time, but still enough to destroy the alien ship. With 3 of their ships destroyed, the remaining planet killers began to retreat. They had learned human tactics and would be ready next time. "Let them go," Morrison ordered as his battered fleet watched the aliens disappear into hyperspace. "We've hurt them badly." Colonel Stone emerged from her bunker to see the debris of the battle falling like shooting stars across Iron Ridge's sky. The planet was saved, but the cost had been terrible. "Admiral, casualty reports are coming in," Grant reported. "We lost 18 ships and over 8,000 personnel." Morrison nodded sadly. "But we proved they can be killed. Send the battle data to Earth Command. Every colony world needs to know that the planet killers can be defeated." As the human fleet regrouped around Iron Ridge, the survivors knew the war was far from over. The planet killers would return, and they would be ready for human tactics. But for the first time since New Haven, humanity had hope. Ambassador Kate Miller stepped off her shuttle onto the space station orbiting Centauri Prime. The alien world below was covered in silver cities that sparkled like jewels. She had traveled for weeks to reach the home of the Zentari Republic, hoping to convince them to join humanity's fight against the planet killers. "Welcome to our home, human ambassador," said Commander Veltar, the Zentari military leader. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and large dark eyes. "We have heard of your victory at Iron Ridge, most impressive." Miller followed the alien commander through the station's corridors. The walls were covered with strange symbols that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Commander, we need your help. The planet killers are still out there, and they're learning our tactics. Humanity can't fight them alone." Veltar stopped at a large window overlooking his homeworld. "Ambassador Miller, what you call planet killers we know by another name. We call them the Void Swarm." Miller felt her heart skip. "You fought them before?" "Fought them, yes. Defeated them, no." Veltar's voice was sad. 300 years ago, the Void Swarm destroyed 12 of our colony worlds. We tried everything to stop them, but our weapons were useless. Eventually, they moved on to hunt elsewhere. But we destroyed 3 of their ships at Iron Ridge. Yes. And that is why we will help you. No species has ever successfully fought the Void Swarm until now. Perhaps together we can finally stop them. Back in human space, Dr. Pete Collins was working around the clock in his laboratory aboard Admiral Morrison's flagship. The captured alien technology from Iron Ridge had given him new insights into how the planet killers worked. "Captain Grant, I think I've found something important," Collins said as Grant entered his lab. Grant looked tired. She had been coordinating defense preparations across a dozen colony worlds. "What did you discover, Pete?" Collins held up a glowing device about the size of a baseball. "This is a piece of their navigation system. It's not just a computer, it's a beacon. The planet killers use these to track each other across the galaxy." "What does that mean for us?" "If we can capture a planet killer intact, we might be able to use its beacon to find the rest of the Void Swarm fleet. Maybe even turn it against them." Grant stared at the alien device. The idea was both brilliant and terrifying. "You're talking about boarding one of those ships. It's the only way, Lisa. We need to get inside one of their ships and take control of its navigation system." Meanwhile, Ambassador Miller was meeting with representatives from the Free Worlds Coalition, a group of smaller alien species who had also suffered under the Void Swarm's attacks. "The humans speak truth," said Elder Cass of the Vorthan clans. Her people looked like giant insects with intelligent eyes. "The Void Swarm consumed our homeworld 60 years ago. We have been wandering space ever since," Captain Zix of the Merchant. Guild nodded agreement. His species had gray skin and multiple arms. "My people lost 5 trading stations to the planet killers. We thought they could never be stopped." Miller looked around the conference table at the assembled aliens. "They can be stopped, but only if we work together. The Void Swarm has terrorized the galaxy for centuries, but they've never faced a united response. The negotiations took days, but finally, all the species agreed to form an alliance. The humans would provide the core breaker weapons, the Zentari would contribute their advanced shields, and the smaller species would share intelligence about Void Swarm movements." Back at Earth, Admiral Morrison was briefing President Burke on the new alliance. "Madam President, we now have 43 alien ships joining our fleet. It's the largest multi-species force in galactic history." Burke studied the fleet reports. "Admiral, Dr. Collins says you want to attempt capturing a planet killer. That sounds extremely dangerous." "It is, ma'am. But if we can get control of their beacon system, we might be able to locate their main fleet and end this war." "Who would lead such a mission?" Morrison didn't hesitate. "Captain Grant has volunteered, along with Commander Parker and Colonel Stone. They're our best people." 3 weeks later, the combined human-alien fleet was ready. Intelligence reports indicated that a damaged planet killer was moving slowly through the Omega sector, separated from the main Void Swarm. Captain Grant stood in the shuttle bay of her ship, addressing the boarding team. Commander Parker and Colonel Stone stood beside her, along with 20 of the military's best soldiers. "People, this is unlike any mission in human history. We're going to board an alien city ship and fight our way to its control center. The Zentari have provided us with environmental suits that should protect us from their atmosphere. Sergeant Torres raised his hand. Captain, what do we know about the aliens themselves? According to Zentari intelligence, the Void Swarm are energy beings that inhabit mechanical shells. They don't think like us and they don't value individual life. Expect heavy resistance. The damaged planet killer drifted through space, its hull cracked and leaking atmosphere. Grant's boarding shuttles approached carefully, using the alien ship's own debris field for cover. Reading multiple hull breaches, reported Parker from the lead shuttle. We can get inside through the damage on the port side. The boarding party entered the planet killer through a massive crack in its hull. Inside, the ship was like a mechanical nightmare. Corridors stretched for kilometers, filled with strange machinery and pulsing lights. Stay together, Grant ordered over the radio. According to the Zentari, the navigation center should be near the ship's core. The team fought their way through automated defenses and mechanical guardians. The Void Swarm beings they encountered were terrifying. Energy creatures inside robot bodies moving with inhuman speed and strength. Colonel Stone led the advance team down a corridor filled with blue light. Captain, I think we're getting close. The energy readings are off the charts. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Void Swarm had realized they were being boarded. All teams double time, Grant ordered. We need to reach that navigation center before they can call for help. The final battle took place in the heart of the planet killer, surrounded by the massive exotic matter core that powered the ship. Grant's team fought desperately against waves of mechanical defenders, while Dr. Collins worked to hack into the alien navigation system. Got it, Collins shouted over the sound of gunfire. I'm downloading their entire navigation database. Lisa, this shows the location of the entire Void Swarm fleet. Grant looked at the data streaming across Collins' portable computer. Hundreds of planet killers were gathering at the galactic core, more than anyone had imagined. Time to go, she ordered. We have what we came for. As the boarding team escaped the dying planet killer, Grant knew their real war was just beginning. The Void Swarm was larger than anyone had suspected, but now humanity and its allies knew where to find them. Dr. Pete Collins stared at the massive screen showing the galactic core. Hundreds of red dots marked the positions of Void Swarm ships, more planet killers than anyone had imagined possible. The captured navigation data revealed their terrible purpose. They were gathering to consume the energy-rich stars at the galaxy center. How many are we looking at? Asked President Burke through the video link from Earth. Collins wiped sweat from his face. At least 300 planet killers, ma'am, maybe more. They're preparing for something big. Admiral Morrison stood beside him in the command center. The Zentari say this is their feeding pattern. Every 1,000 years, the Void Swarm gathers to consume stellar cores. If they succeed, they'll have enough power to strip entire star systems. Burke's face was grim. What are our options? Engineer Carl Hughes stepped forward. We've been working on Collins' beacon idea. If we can get close enough to their fleet, we might be able to trigger a chain reaction in their exotic matter cores. How close? Very close. Someone would have to fly the captured planet killer right into the middle of their formation. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Captain Lisa Grant spoke up from her position near the tactical display. I'll do it. My crew and I will take the captured ship. Morrison shook his head. Lisa, it's a suicide mission. Once you trigger the chain reaction, you won't be able to escape. Maybe not. But if we don't try, the Void Swarm will consume half the galaxy. 2 weeks later, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the core region. Human ships flew alongside Zentari cruisers and vessels from dozens of other species. The captured planet killer, now renamed Defiance, sat in the center of the formation. Grant walked through the corridors of the Defiance with her volunteer crew. Commander Parker, Colonel Stone, Dr. Collins, and 50 others had chosen to join the mission. They all knew they might not survive. The modifications are complete, Collins reported. We've rigged the exotic matter core to overload on command. The chain reaction should spread to any Void Swarm ship within 50,000 kilometers. How long do we have once we trigger it? Grant asked. Maybe 10 minutes before the core explodes. After that, the reaction will spread through their entire
fleet.
Parker looked around the alien corridors they now called home. It's strange being inside one of these ships. A few months ago we were terrified of them. Stone nodded. Now we're riding one into the biggest battle in history. The combined fleet moved toward the galactic core, where space itself glowed with the light of millions of ancient stars. As they got closer, the Void Swarm fleet became visible, a dark cloud of massive ships surrounding the brightest stars. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Brooks from his sensor station. "There are so many of them." The Void Swarm had noticed the approaching fleet. Their ships began to move, forming defensive patterns around their prize. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Execute Operation Final Dawn. The Defiance will proceed alone from here." Grant felt her heart pound as the Defiance separated from the main fleet. The captured planet killer looked exactly like the enemy ships. And the Void Swarms. Scanners couldn't tell the difference. "So far so good," Collins reported. "Their ships are accepting us as one of their own." The Defiance moved deeper into the Void Swarm formation. Grant could see hundreds of planet killers around them, each one capable of destroying worlds. The largest ships were feeding directly from the stars, their hulls glowing with absorbed energy. "There." Stone pointed to the tactical display. "The center of their formation. If we detonate there, the chain reaction will reach the maximum number of ships." As they approached the center, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the Defiance. The Void Swarm had discovered their deception. "They know we're here," Parker shouted over the noise. "Enemy ships are moving to intercept." The nearest planet killers opened fire on the Defiance. Blue energy beams cut through space toward them. "Pete, trigger the overload now," Grant ordered. Collins's hands flew over the alien controls. "Initiating core overload. We have 8 minutes before detonation." The Defiance shuddered under enemy fire as Void Swarm ships surrounded them. Grant's crew fought desperately to keep their ship flying as the exotic matter core began its final countdown. "Lisa, we're taking heavy damage," Stone reported. "Hull breaches on multiple decks. Hold together just a little longer," Grant said through gritted teeth. Outside, Admiral Morrison's fleet engaged the outer edges of the Void Swarm formation. Human and alien ships fought side by side against the planet killers, buying precious time for the Defiance to complete its mission. 4 minutes to detonation, Collins announced. "The core is becoming unstable." Suddenly the lights went out aboard the Defiance. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. "Main power is down," Parker reported. "We're running on backup systems." "Can you still trigger the explosion?" Grant asked Collins. "Yes, but we need to be closer to the center. The chain reaction won't reach their entire fleet from here." Grant looked at her crew. People who had volunteered to die to save the galaxy. "All hands prepare for ramming speed. We're going to drive this ship right into the heart of their formation." The dying Defiance accelerated toward the center of the Void Swarm fleet. Enemy fire tore at its hull, but the massive ship kept flying. 1 minute to detonation, Collins announced. The largest planet killer in the enemy fleet moved to block their path. It was enormous, easily twice the size of the Defiance. "Ram that ship," Grant ordered. "Take us right through it." The Defiance struck the enemy vessel at full speed. Both ships erupted in explosions as they tore each other apart. 30 seconds, Collins said calmly. Grant grabbed the ship's communication system. "Admiral Morrison, this is Captain Grant. Tell Earth that humanity never surrendered." The exotic matter core exploded in a burst of blue light visible from neighboring galaxies. The explosion jumped from ship to ship, spreading through the void, swarm fleet like wildfire. 300 planet killers died in moments, their cores feeding the growing reaction. At the last second, Commander Parker's damaged shuttle escaped the explosion, carrying the surviving members of Grant's crew to safety. From his flagship, Admiral Morrison watched the end of the Void Swarm. The enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was finally destroyed. "Sir, message from Captain Grant's shuttle," reported the communications officer. Grant's voice, weak but alive, came through the speakers. "Admiral, mission accomplished. The planet killers are finished." Years later, Admiral Grant stood on the observation deck of humanity's first mobile construction ship, watching robotic crews build a new world from asteroid materials. The ship was the size of a planet killer, but instead of destroying worlds, it created them. The galaxy was at peace, united by the war against the Void Swarm. Humanity had proven that even the most terrible enemies could be defeated when free. People stood together. The planet killers were gone, but their memory lived on as a reminder that freedom must always be defended against those who would destroy it.